Welcome to another episode of Courageous Healing. I am the producer and co-host, Victor Escalante. Joining me in the studio, as usual and customary, is Adele George. Adele?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I just got back from a retreat, so I'm totally ready to go.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
What are we talking about today, Adele?
Well, we have a special guest with us, my dear friend, Amy Weldon. Amy is here. We're going to do a two-parter with her. We're going to keep the second part in suspense, but Amy is here because one of the subjects I've been wanting to talk about is social media and bots. So she is knowledgeable about this, and we really want to come to a place where we're going to explain to you. Amy's going to talk about it. She's going to explain to you what it is, and then we're going to talk about how this tickles your trauma and how to not let it, or what you can do to make your social media better. Because in truth, everybody's saying step away from social media. That's not going to happen anymore. So, Amy, I am so glad you're here. So why don't you take a second to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, a little bit of your background.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah, I was just telling you before we started to record, this is kind of one of my special interests, and I don't think it's being talked about enough, so I'm really excited. But yeah, so like Adele said, I am a communications specialist, so this is kind of my realm in terms of my profession. I've worked in social media for a long time, for about 10 years now. I haven't done specifically social media. I've done kind of all over the communications world. I've written scripts for YouTube videos, and I've done blogging, and I've done web articles, things like that. But social media, in my opinion, is something that a good communicator this day and age should at least have their thumb on the pulse of. Even if you're not creating the content, you're not scheduling posts to go up at different times, knowing what trends are out there, knowing the behavior of users is really helpful when you're writing other stuff that you want folks to hopefully leave social media and go check out on the internet, right? So, yeah, my background is actually, maybe this is why I have a degree in animal behavior. So I took a lot of psychology of motivation and learning. I'm just realizing that as I'm saying it, so I'm laughing now. But and then I was an animal trainer for a long time, and then I switched into science communication. So this is kind of, like I said, it's in my wheelhouse in terms of talking about the motivation, the psychology, the science behind the ways we communicate. I do want to specify that I am not an expert in bots necessarily. I do work in a national security context, so I do learn a lot about the large language models, which I'll talk about in a second, and the supercomputers and the different ways that adversaries out there are looking to mess with Americans specifically, and not in the old, bombs or violence kind of way, but in the more insidious ways like bots. So I'm really excited to be here today and to talk to you guys all about it.
So, Amy, I have a question for you. Prior to the Cambridge Analytica debacle, was there any prior history of bots and artificial intelligence being used on such a large scale in America?
That's a really good question, and I would have to look it up. I did research a bit into the prevalence of bots in 2016, as you're referring to the Cambridge Analytica debacle, the scandal. Basically, what was happening was there was what's called a troll farm or a bot farm located in St. Petersburg, Russia. And at this time, to your point, this consisted of actual people sitting at rows and rows of computers, interacting and planting seeds of outrage on Facebook specifically, look at this article about Hillary Clinton, look how terrible she is, and XYZ, and going into the comments and starting fights and then continuing conversations. And this was the work of people, right? Humans with pulses in most cases. And so to your question, I would have to look that up. I'm not sure if anyone's been studying that yet. I'm 100% sure, meddling, if you will, in our politics, our social media was probably happening before that, because they were probably test driving how to do it effectively for that election cycle. So but yeah, and the election cycle in 2016, it was proven this was happening. And this was a huge reason why we were so polarized and why states like West Virginia, for the first time in 80 years, having voted Democrat, voted Republican. So, I mean, this is big stuff, upending completely, big stuff. And we're going to talk about like how it affects us as individuals too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And listeners, we need to understand that we are not interested in discussing politics. This is strictly about mental health and your mind and how the environment and what you consume affects you and how insidious it is because you may be having an argument or discussion with a bot that again has been engineered to trigger you. That is the focus of our discussion today. Adele, do you remember some of those ads on social media back around 2016, where Hillary was plastered as Satan, and just extreme, bizarre memes that again were so immaturish, but the reality is that they work.
I distinctly remember how it really started to peel away discernment, and it started to affect all of us, because we didn't know what was going on. And so you did see, and I mean, we know that's happened today, but that was really the cusp of people truly starting to argue over social media and really feeling like they needed to defend their opinion and defend themselves. And so I feel like it's a nuanced sort of thing when it starts to when they and I use this term a lot, and I know, Amy, you've probably heard it when me say it, to trigger and to tickle your trauma because they're trying to get a rise out of you deliberately. So I do distinctly remember that. But I think it's really important. I think this conversation is really important. I think just even for people to understand exactly what it's about in today's world, because it's evolved so much.
And people don't even realize that this is happening. But they're engaging with trolls and bots that are not even real humans on social media that have been specifically engineered in large language libraries to be able to, as a profiler, as an instructor at a police academy, I looked at some of those articles, Amy, and how your social media uh, algorithms could determine from 2 or 3 likes or comments that you posted your profile, and then it automatically created that algorithm to start feeding you news and information and content that was specifically triggered for you or generated for you or fed for you so that you would live in a bubble to affect your perception, to affect your politics, to affect your purchasing behavior. So so why don't you walk us through, in your understanding and knowledge, the mechanics behind the scene of how this is being done?
yeah, absolutely. So, I think we should, first talk about what a bot is. Obviously, everyone knows it's short for robot, but basically, it's usually consisting of an automated software application that's designed to perform like a specific and usually repetitive task on a network or computer system. They're not all inherently malicious. A lot of them are just marketing tools a lot of the times. And I'm sure we've all seen, if you ever get even one post on your personal social media that gets more than 50 likes or something like that, you'll get a DM from somebody that's like, "Do you want to grow your Instagram followership?" And that's exactly what it is you're paying for access to bots who will like and engage with all of your content to make it look like it's really well done and super popular. So, and we'll get into like what the hallmarks are of that and what to look for in a little bit. But malicious bots, which are the ones that we're talking about, because again, they're the ones that are designed, not that they're going to, but that they're designed to tickle your trauma, whether it is related to politics or whether it's related to, you know, psychology and psychiatric kind of based content, whether it's just healing stuff or even domestic violence like recovery. Like they know what they're doing. They're programmed for this kind of stuff. So that's typically more of it's more wired like I guess like a malware almost. So yeah, so that's kind of the basis, and it was before like the troll farm, hundreds of people in one building with computers or phones. And then it got a little more advanced after that 2016 election. They probably started to play with bots at that time just to get volume. So we're talking about a troll creates that crazy inflammatory post about Hillary Clinton or whatever it was. And then all the bots come in to like it and engage with it so that it pops up at the top of your feed as soon as you log on to Facebook, right? So, um, and Cambridge Analytica, to rewind and talk about that a bit more, was basically a huge um, controversy where this marketing firm, basically Cambridge Analytica, was called on the carpet for the fact that it was training or encouraging Facebook to engage with content in a way that really pushed negative stuff, really pushed, scary, negative, controversial, you know, I think there's an old saying in press that's like, if it bleeds, it leads. That same mentality of like, we want, arguments. We want, because the comments blow up, right? If somebody feels very strongly about, say, a school shooting or, somebody, I think back that time it was the Me Too movement, right? So all of those comments going on underneath, Cambridge Analytica helped Facebook engineer their algorithms to push negative and specifically, election related content to the top of all of our feeds, to where we all felt, like Adele said, we had to share everything that we saw. And we had to prove our point. Like, no, this isn't the truth. This is really what Hillary is doing, or whatever it was. And so I just wanted to like make sure to cover that. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to give them my email. So so yeah, most of the time, amplifying misinformation and disinformation, creating a false consensus, and that is a theory of mine that I think is a big time what we're seeing right now, and trying to convince Americans that we all hate each other, when if you walk out your front door and interact with people face to face, that's just not the case, right? So inflating metrics, like I said, getting really easily tons of likes and comments on a post, even though you just started your account yesterday. Phishing and scams, of course, I think we're all pretty familiar with like the Nigerian prince thing. They've gotten a lot more sophisticated since then. So getting you to give them money or send them things, gift cards, whatever. And then harassment and trolling, which is, I think, especially where we're at today, talking about people and bots that are out to trigger you, plain and simple, because that will keep you coming back and engaging with their content. Let's see. I have my notes here. Sorry, guys, I'm cheating. But so where do they come from? Why and why? Who has the time to just figure out how to bother people on the internet, right? So apparently there's a term called the bot master, which I think there's got to be a movie that comes out, with like an 80s throwback feel. I feel like it has to do that. And the bot herder, apparently, they're controlled remotely, so it's not like they're sitting in a shed with a million iPhones hooked up that are interacting. You can run this usually from a pretty powerful, but a computer. And you could even use what we referred to earlier, large language models. An example everybody knows, ChatGPT. Google has Gemini. There's one called Claude. A large language model is basically a chatbot that is able to respond to your prompts. The more detailed the prompt is, the more prolific their answer is for you, and with the content that they can generate for you. So you can use these things to code. Claude specifically, I know is, and I think ChatGPT 5, which just came out a few weeks ago, you can use these things to code. So this means that you don't have to be a computer genius data scientist. Now you can just talk to these things like I'm talking to you right now and say, hey, I want to build a program for XYZ. And hopefully most of the time it's like, I need help with my budget, like help me with that, or whatever. But there are folks out there who are just looking to sow that controversy, that disagreements, and not good negative stuff. And so where I'm concerned is definitely the national security aspect in terms of like who are the folks in other countries that are trying to get Americans to fight and why? What are those motivations? In terms of the kinds of people creating bots for engaging with um, you know, the harassment aspect. I'm not sure. I would have to look deeper into that. Like, why is someone going to create bots that interact with people who have survived trauma? I'm not sure. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know all the answers to that. But at the end of the day, it's usually because they're bored and because whatever the content is that you're commenting under, they would like it to float to the top. So,
Another factor is that big money involved because I heard a term recently. Adele, have you heard of the term rage entrepreneurship? No. Okay. So that's the thing. When we look at a lot of these controversial influencers, they're making millions of dollars from pushing their content. And so you've got bots that are amplifying that footprint and basically that is the majority of what you're going to find now is fear and anger, anger and rage, fear, anger and rage that is being pushed out. I listened to a podcast today about Alex Jones and how he was one of the earliest that was pushing conspiracy theories that was totally made up, but he was doing it for the money. I mean, look at what he did with Sandy Hook survivors, how it destroyed many families' lives. And again, he didn't care because he was making millions, out pushing all kinds of products on his websites and all his social media sites. That again, there was no consideration to the value to society because he was profiteering from it.
yeah, exactly. I think he was kind of like you said, the prototype almost for this because just a couple weeks ago, we lost another person in that category, Charlie Kirk.
Sure.
And the inflammatory things he would say got amplified when not that many people truly feel the way he felt. That's my theory. Maybe I'm a relentless optimist in that way, but because this has now happened, a lot of his content is getting even more traction because you better believe these bot farms have been programmed to now respond, post, comment, repost anything that mentions his name, and especially if it's controversial. Not just a normal like, oh, RIP, like no. If it's something that he said that isn't, inciting upset and disagreement, like that's definitely going to get it. So I encourage your listeners, if you're on social media and you're seeing more of him now that he's dead than you ever saw of him while he was alive, there's a reason behind that. And it's not just your typical violence causing, an upwelling of reaction. This is now 2 weeks out and I'm still seeing it on social media.
Yeah, Dell and I were having a conversation of how people are jumping onto the bandwagon. Ordinary people are making commentary about the death of Charlie Kirk and their position simply because they're trying to hijack the attention and the status that brings. And again, that is being amplified and pushed out by bots.
And not only that, too, the other thing that we have to really take into consideration with all of this is that there's splicing of his words. Not this there's a splicing of what he said. Video editing today is so nuanced that it can literally make something seem seamless of something that he said that can polarize on either side,
Yes.
and so it is a thing where it's like it's driving people to do it, like Victor just said, the conversation we had the other day where people are coming out and they're basically making their own press release as to how they feel about it or their terms on it. But I mean, this is for everything. This isn't just it isn't just, the murder of Charlie Kirk. It's everything. Everything that anything and everything that people are now led to feel like they have to take a stance on it.
Yes.
And, in some instances, and, I don't know, and you don't, we all don't know what everybody's trauma is. We know that this is tagging them and making them feel in a certain way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's the stirring of the pot,
Mhm.
and that's what these bots are doing is like you're saying, it's like you said a little while ago, it's making it seem like we're more polarized than we actually are.
Simple as that. Simple as that. And I'm glad you brought that up because and Charlie Kirk being the example right now, but I saw people on my Facebook post about this that I have not seen post in years, maybe since they had a kid or something like that. And
Yes.
feeling like you said, I love that you said that, the feeling like they had to make a press release about it to say, this is my stance, this is where I am on this. And it's all because they're consuming media created by bots. You see it over and over again. How dare you celebrate the death? How could you celebrate the death? Celebrate the death. Celebrate. I don't know a single person, and I'm online a lot, and I know a lot of people that was out there partying it up because this announcement, and because there's content that they're consuming that's saying that it's happening and providing, to your point, some, video of somebody they don't know, but it looks real enough celebrating a death of someone. They have every reason to believe that's what's happening, and that's what the consensus is. It's terrifying. It's
And
terrifying.
AI videos are getting harder and harder to discern at quick glance
Yes.
that they're actually not real.
Yes.
So there's just so many things out there that these bots are creating. And I get curious because when I see a friend share something from a page, I then go to the page. And what I'm seeing a lot of is these are pages that have been hijacked, and they've been stolen from the original owner. And in
Mhm.
some instances, the logo in the picture is still the same as the original owner. And it was some little bakery in Idaho that just
Yeah.
lost their Facebook page
Yeah.
because it got hacked. And all of a sudden, even the website is still the bakery's website. They've changed nothing, but they deleted all the content and they started building all of this content in there. And so I think I saw like 4 or 5 pages like that.
Mhm. I'm
And
really glad you pointed that out because there are hallmarks. So there are hallmarks.
and so that's when I reached out to you, Amy, because it was like, okay, something's going on that's way more sinister that's trying to make us upset as individuals.
Mm.
And it really and that got me because what really breaks my heart is the press releases of people coming out feeling they have to say this and they have to say it because they're upset and they
Mhm.
need to be heard. And don't get me wrong, most people need to be heard, and they need to be heard in a way where we understand where they're coming from because of their own hurt.
Yeah.
So when I started to realize, I'm like, and that's when I was like, what are they seeing on their feed that I'm not seeing on my feed? And I don't have another profile that I can treat the algorithm differently so that I can start to see it. Like, I'm doing all of that. I'm not going to spend my time doing that. I started to really realize how dangerous this bot stuff actually is and how dangerous it is. Social media inherently is not dangerous. What's dangerous is this stuff makes it dangerous.
What I'd like to do is like to get down into the weeds and talk less theory and to get down into how insidious this is. So let's say that I am a abuse survivor, okay? A survivor of domestic violence. And all of a sudden I see a couple of stories or a couple of memes on my social media feed that is talking about family values, okay? We'll start with something very innocent. Family values or the role of a wife in a marriage. I click on it I don't even like it. I just click on it. And as a result of that, what's happening on the back end, Amy?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So you don't even have to click on it now. The algorithm can see just how long you have paused before scrolling on to tell whether or not you quote unquote would like to see more of that. You showed interest in it. So yeah, you're absolutely right. If you click with it, if you engage with it in any way, on the back end of a social media post, you have what are called insights, and those feed into analytics. And so insights can be anything from views, just like how many eyeballs did this post get in front of, versus engagement, versus people who actually liked or did a reaction, because I know Facebook and LinkedIn have different reactions you can do. How many people liked it? How many people commented on it? How many people shared, saved, screenshots sometimes? So it's pervasive. It's very, very you know, like you said, insidious is the best word for it because you don't even know sometimes. And you think, they change it on us, right? So there was a time where you didn't have to, click on it, or sorry, you had to click on it to have it register, but now you don't even have to click on it.
You're listening to Courageous Healing Podcast. We'll be right back.
Big news! The inspiring book, Courageous Healing, is now available in print, ebook, and audiobook. No matter how you like to read or listen, you can now experience the powerful story and life-changing insights inside this book. Don't wait. Start your journey of healing and transformation today. Order your copy now and take the first step toward your courageous healing.
We now return you to the Courageous Healing Podcast.
So now I start to receive the algorithm now is profiling me, and I start to see very conservative content that is being pushed on me, turning into misogynistic criticisms of if I'm a woman, misogynistic criticisms about being woke. I'm just giving a hypothetical scenario,
Sure.
where what's going to now be fed to me, Amy, as a result of the bots determining that I'm fit a certain profile, that I'm an abuse survivor.
Yeah, you're gonna start to see a lot more, and it's like you said, it may not be overnight to the most extreme the next day. It'll be a gradual trickle of maybe it's every 5 posts you see something, maybe from a podcaster who has like quote unquote red pill opinions, or I don't want to get political, but right wing or MAGA opinions, like whatever, something different that you may not check out, right? And a lot of times it's someone who's like you and me and Adele right now, we're just talking. So it doesn't seem bad, it doesn't seem scary. They're not on a platform or on a and behind a lectern barking things like, it's not something that feels formal. It feels easy to kind of like, let's see what they have to say. Like he dresses kind of like I dress. Like he's using terms that, I use in my everyday language. It's not some scientist, it's not some politician, it's just a guy with a microphone. So it's not that it's that. And then it can graduate to the more extreme like memes or short videos that are gags of like how you treat your wife at home or so. I don't know. I don't exist in those planes, but yeah, to your point, that's how it shows up. And maybe then it's every 3 posts. Maybe then it's all of your posts are related, or not your posts, but your content that you're consuming is related in some way to that new alignment, that new way of thinking to you.
So Adele, as an abuse survivor, what begins to happen to your nervous system as you begin to consume this kind of content?
As an abuse survivor, the biggest thing that I find when you start to see what I like to call a lot of like verbal violence, it doesn't necessarily mean they're inciting violence or that they're going to do harm. It just means that it's very argumentative. it triggers a lot of uncomfortableness in myself, period, for me. And it's upsetting. And the reason that it gets upsetting for me is because I see something that and what I find is interesting is that, like you said, like it could be every 2 or 3 posts, but then all of a sudden I'm being delivered posts from my friends. Like the algorithm is choosing what friends I get to see. So I'm getting to see all of this. And so if if you're not in a space where you understand that we all have a right to our own opinion and that your opinion of a post that you put on Facebook is not directed at me, it really can make you spiral. Start taking every single one of these posts as an attack or as something personal. And you want to, and that's where the argument actually is incited. And that's exactly what they're doing, is because they want you to take this personally and they want you to respond to it and they want the argument, because as the argument feeds the beast. So it's like, it's learning that my friends are entitled to their opinions. They're entitled to feel the way that they want to feel.
Yeah.
They didn't say it that way. They're not calling me out. And, and so if you feel like somebody is saying something that is of direct consequence to you, take it offline.
Mm-hmm.
Take it offline. Don't have that conversation with them, because first of all, now you've embarrassed them or you said something in a public way. And so that is just going to cause the whole damn thing to spiral out of control. I just know, and I remind myself that we're all entitled to have our difference of opinion. And they didn't call me out. They didn't say, Adele, get off of my Facebook page because you think differently. They didn't specifically identify me. So I'm not going to take it as personally as they being not the person that wrote it, but they being the background, the bots and all of the algorithm and all of that stuff. I'm not going to take it as personally as they want me to take it and they want me to fight. Because I don't necessarily think that a lot of people realize they're stirring the pot. This is stirring the pot. This is doing this. And it makes me also wonder if they're intentionally delivering things to me that oppose or of the opposite of what my beliefs are, and that the people, and vice versa.
You start to see all kinds of postings from Governor Newsom and that whole ecosystem. Again, the algorithm is going to select you and is going to start feeding your friends' posts that are pro Democratic leanings. Okay. So again, we are not talking politics. We're strictly talking social media algorithms and how they affect our perception and ultimately our mental health and our emotions. I want to bring up a case study, guys, of a woman that I went to school with, that she's been red pilled and she's become hopeless because she started posting all kinds of YouTube videos from content creators that, again, were totally biased. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were profiteering from a lot of their content. And I clicked through some of those posts to see the websites where she was pulling from. And again, it was nothing but propaganda, as well as people pushing products, services, and asking for donations. Their costs. Okay. So this is a money machine. And I tried to privately engage with her and to bring this up to her, but there's no hope. And here's what's dangerous, guys, is she suffers from mental illness. This is what is dangerous. So not only is she perpetuating her dysfunction and feeding her mental illness, but now she's living in a bubble. There's no way out.
And it's wild, right? Because we all heard of the silos, of the echo chambers that these algorithms create for us. And then we were just talking about how, well, sometimes I'll see something that's completely the opposite of how I feel. And isn't it unfortunate that it's only the stuff to incite arguments and it's not to gain perspective? Because that's what we need ultimately is we need to interact with people in a way that isn't tailored for us, or chosen for us. We need to interact with people at the grocery store, at the volunteer, place that we go, or the dog park. I'm a big proponent of the dog park right now because everybody has a dog. It doesn't matter what side of the political fence you land on, right? And at those places you get to interact face to face with folks and find out, oh hey, you're not a monster. Like you don't have three heads. You're not trying to blow up the world or whatever it is. And that's exactly what these bots, these trolls are after, is to keep us on our phones and sucked into that screen, because the day that we all log off or realize what they're up to and go and interact with people anyway in person is the day that they're out of business.
The amount of money that's being made online just from views alone
Yes.
and interactions alone. I mean, we know how successful people are on platforms like YouTube. And there's a lot of really great quality information out there that you can consume, and it's like in on both sides of the fence. It's this is again
Yes.
it's there's a lot of great information out there that you can consume that's not going to be harmful to you.
Yes.
And collectively, the three of us, we want people to understand that there's something out there that's trying to harm us. And the more that we step away from it and the more that we step back from it, the better off we'll be. However, just to kind of segue into, like, I think unless Victor has something else, I'd love to really talk about how, now we've talked about this, we've hashed this all out, we've gotten our listeners to this point. What's the solution?
I agree. We do need to go over best practices that you recommend, Amy, because you're the expert in this topic. But we cannot leave this conversation without talking about 4chan, okay?
Oh yeah. Ah.
Which is the mother of some of crazy polarizing content. These were just kids that were bored, that they started this web page that, again, it was nothing but memes, but talk about the corrosive and destructive effect on society, Amy.
So 4chan, yeah, and I did not pull up any info on that when I was studying up for this, but 4chan has been around for a long time, and it's actually a play on words from old programming like platform that existed, I believe, in the 80s, maybe even before that. And it was started as just kind of a place for other, data science or computer um, driven folks to talk to each other and to exchange like what they're doing in the hobby of computer science. And because it was, this is my theory now, because it was this deepest, darkest of corners that the average American had no idea existed, let alone how to access it. And then a lot of times make it work because it really was all coding. They could talk about whatever they wanted to talk about there without any repercussions, right? They could talk about, treatment of women. It was largely men that had access to this. They could talk about politics. They could talk about, things that would get you fired today, for sure. And that has unfortunately tainted it and is still a thing today. I've never accessed 4chan. From what I understand, Reddit was then kind of supposed to be the offshoot of 4chan that was for everybody. But there's still some pretty icky parts of Reddit too. But yeah, it's this almost every, it seems like to me, almost every like school shooter or like even this Charlie Kirk shooter allegedly, whatever, has some kind of
Yes.
contact with that platform. Please don't go look it up. Please just stay away from it if you're listening to this right now.
Absolutely. So that is the birth, that's the genesis of QAnon, okay? And so the through line from 4chan to where we are in our political world runs through 4chan. So this is the crazy making. This is the irrational entertainment that started out as entertainment and just bros hanging out.
Yeah.
To bringing down our society.
Yeah, just like, look what I can do. Check this out. I'm gonna go over here and post this and I watch the fallout. Isn't that funny? Ha ha ha. To like now whole movements.
So we've covered a lot. Amy, take us to the best practices for our funerals and managing the social media in a crazy world.
Yeah. So yes, we had to go to the darkest place right before we get to the optimism.
Yes.
So yeah. First of all, I wanted to bring in some stats. So there's statistics that came out in 2024, and again, this was right as ChatGPT was starting to get going. So I'm sure it's worse now, but at that point, 51% of web traffic, so not specific to social media, but web traffic in general, 51% is estimated to be bot based. 37% of that traffic, of that 51%, is malicious bots. So that should just give you some context as to how prolific this issue is. So at the end of the day, Adele's first, suggestion, which is, largely not possible in the world we live in, is to just not engage on social media as much. I myself and Adele can tell you that she and I actually have never met in person. We're Instagram pals. We've been for probably 10 years now or something ridiculous like that. So lots of good things can come from social media, but it is a totally appropriate time to start taking steps back from it, where you can. But while you're on, and we're going to talk, I think, in the next conversation about those physical triggers, like, hey, I just read this comment and I'm starting to feel some type of way in my body, right? So beyond that, and we'll get into how to recognize those signals from your body. If you see a comment that you're like, what is this person talking about? Go to their profile, check them out, look at what's going on, because I guarantee you're going to see one of a few different hallmarks. And with bots, largely, you're going to be seeing someone that posts a lot and repetitive stuff. And it depends on the platform sometimes. Blue Sky is an example of a platform that is overrun by, like, quote unquote leftist, like blue, Democrat bots. I've never seen anything like it. It's crazy to me. And so they're posting just constantly about, look at the timestamps. Look at the timestamps. Who is online that much? You should not be online that much unless your full-time job is to post. But this is supposed to just be some guy from Michigan or whatever. Like, look at the timestamps. The next thing you can do is it a picture, or is it a picture of a sunset or a dog or just the egg, the blank profile picture? You haven't said it yet. Look even closer. If it is a person, especially a person that's trying to engage with you, Adele, I don't know if you've seen this, but I get a ton of new followers and people in my DMs, quote unquote people, that are salt and pepper, rugged gentlemen with beards and like tattoos.
They're all widows too.
They're all widows. They're military service or some sort of like tough guy, but they're with a dog in the truck. And it's either a photo that you can then Google search and find a real person attached to that they sold in that photo, or it's AI generated, which is getting scarier. And to Adele's point earlier, much, much, much harder to tell. But if it seems too good to be true, girl, that's a bot. So walk away. It's a bot. So looking for those little hallmarks. Also odd language, and grammar. And I have a TikTok that Adele, you may or may not have seen, where I actually screenshot some of these accounts that were like, I had joined Blue Sky, and within like 2 weeks, I was like, this place is bot central. What is going on? And in the profile, here's this ruggedly handsome guy, and it says, I want to say it said, I love you playing baseball. What? Listen, I mean, not to yuck anybody's young. I guess if like your kink is watching people play baseball, I don't know, but it was just grammar, so it's either a grammar thing, odd language, inappropriate use of emojis. Sometimes they'll post something completely unrelated under like, it's an Instagram picture of a ham sandwich, and someone's posted, you're so hot. Like, I wish I could, what? So just look at the context. And if it is one that is ultra personal and it feels really, really real to you, again, take a look at that profile. It could be a troll. It could be somebody who is hurting somewhere else in their life. And this is the one thing that they can control. And we can get more into that again in the next conversation. But
Yes.
take a step back and realize, okay, if I get into it with this person, and maybe you do, Are they posting every 30 seconds? Are they replying to your comments like that? Okay, again, they're not picking up kids. They're not going to the grocery store. They're not driving. They're always just answering you at 3 a.m. or something like that. That's probably a bot, right? And what is the content you're commenting under, and who benefits from it getting seen more because there's a million comments now of you and this person going back and forth, right? So those are the questions that kind of ask yourself. And then on a, bigger picture, like just know I work with data scientists who are looking at this kind of stuff and are looking at the guardrails for large language models that are being used to create these things, sometimes by kids, sometimes by foreign adversaries. And there are lots of smart people on the other end of this that are taking it very seriously and looking at ways to identify, program, ways to combat it, bots for bots, if you will. And so there are good guys that are out there that are looking into this problem, and it is getting talked about more. And I'm really grateful for that. And I'm grateful for this podcast because this is just another step.
Yeah. So, listeners, if you are being contacted by what Amy said, this rugged alpha masculine male asking you for money, that's a bot. You're being trolled by a bot.
Or just calling you pretty first and saying how interesting you are and making you feel seen, right? Too good to be true.
I get lots of Asian trolls. One of the giveaways is they call me dear.
Dear, oh my gosh. Yeah, so we could have a whole other podcast on like the weird, like old timey language that could be because it is like a bot form in Bangladesh or something, or someplace that's like, they have an older version of English that they've learned from or something like that, and it's who knows, but yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Sometimes I'll even troll the troll.
Oh, sometimes I have time. Sometimes I have time and I'll take screenshots. Adele can tell you I have fun. I have some fun with them sometimes.
When I'm bored, I'll even troll the trolls.
Right. We do want to remind our listeners there's always an X. Just out of it. And I think that's one of the things that Facebook and Instagram do very well is the fact that there is I don't want to see this, or you can mute something.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, I kept getting this page in my feed that kept putting all of this stuff out. Well, I don't ever remember following the page. So it was apparently a hijack. It was a page that was hacked, and it was obviously taken over at some point. And even still, you can look and see that they only had like a few thousand followers. So it wasn't even something, it was probably just in that, because they're not hacking pages that have 20, 30, a million followers.
That's a really good point. I had not noticed that, and that's going to be something I look out for now. Because you're right. You're absolutely, because it's not the page at the end of the day. It's the content that they're posting that's blowing up.
Right. And I'm unfollowed. I really started Xing out some of that stuff because now, and I don't know if people know this, but if you're on your Facebook app, there's a friend button where you look at just posts from your friends. And that's not the regular news feed. So do that as well. And so, and you can, I think, clean up your feed a little bit. YouTube, and I know that the terms have changed for TikTok, and I know that TikTok's a little bit tumultuous with ownership.
Gosh, yeah.
But I know that on TikTok, what you search for is what you're delivered, what you like, what you listen to. So, if you don't want to get served these things, then like search for other things. Search for things. Start interacting and liking what you introduce you.
Kitties, exercise, whatever. Yeah, absolutely. It's and we'll talk about in the next episode. This is something that I did and I had to do for my protection because I was in a place where I was like, you know what, this old feed is not working for me right now. It's not helping me feel good about myself. So absolutely, and a really short way to do that is to you can go to ChatGPT if you feel comfortable and say, hey, look, I have accounts on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. Can you tell me how to change my algorithms? Can you tell me how to unfollow people without them knowing? Can you tell me how to? And it'll give you a by platform instruction manual basically on how to do that. So you can do it all at once. Because I know that that's something for me. I forget. And that's what it is, right? We open up Instagram intending to mess with our settings. Oh, I have a DM from Adele and I'm going to go chit chat with her. Oh, somebody sent me a video of a cat and da, 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 da. And then you forget, right? And that's very much by design. So sitting down with intention to create at least the hard boundaries of these are the things I don't want to see anymore, and then using selective engagement to build your new algorithm. And we can get into that in a little bit.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, Amy, this has been quite an interesting conversation, and we want to thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. This has been super fun. We could do like so many more episodes, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, before you sign off, Amy, in case people don't follow us to the next episode, because it'll be a week after we post this one, how can people find you?
So I have my personal social media is like I said, I'm kind of sundowning that, to use lame corporate language. I'm not on it as much. On TikTok is where I talk more about bots. And my TikTok is Charm City Chick, all one word. And then I also have a podcast where I talk to folks who are in science communications and other kind of unsung hero areas of STEM. So you can hear from people like the data scientists that are combating online malicious behavior, or folks that are writing the press releases that hopefully you get to see on social media and not spam or made up stuff. And that is called Blue Collar White Coat. And we are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook as Blue Collar White Coat Pod. So definitely stop by. Definitely check out the if you thought what I had to say about something that affects you every day from a science aspect was interesting, you'll really love Blue Collar White Coat. So come check it out.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes, we're going to have to leave it there, friends. Until next time, go on and have a great week.